If you've ever bought one of the Yamaha guitar starter packs or been into a cash converters, you might have seen one of these, a Yamaha GA-10 practice amplifier. The G stands for guitar, the A stands for amplifier, and the 10 denotes the amount of watts it can put out. These days, even as a practice amp, it leaves a little bit to be desired. There's no Bluetooth out or USB connectivity so that you can change the patches on it or plug it into your DAW. It's literally just a practice amp, the old-fashioned type. You just plug your guitar into it and turn it up and it makes a noise. But where this practice amp comes into its own, above the likes of the Fender Mustang and the Line 6 amplifier, is it's only about 20 quid second hand. You can get them for as little as £10 if you're willing to shop around. I got this one from a cash converters, delivered to my door, for £19.99. Free postage. There's literally thousands of them all across the world, and I imagine a few of them are ending up in landfill this weekend, just because they're so cheap and nobody wants them. But does it sound any good? That's the question we have to ask ourselves. Well, it's by no means the worst thing I've ever heard, but it's a little bit weedy. I've got a theory that it's the weedy little speaker that makes it sound weedy. I wonder what it'd sound like through my old Marshall 4x12. Looks like we're going to have to make a modification. Well, if you look into the back of the amplifier, you'll see that the speaker's attached to a white and a red wire, and that goes into the amplifier chassis, and that's how it's connected. All we need to do is to put a jack on the speaker side of the wires and a jack socket on the amplifier side of the wires, and then it'll be just like a Fender amplifier where you can unplug it and plug it into a speaker cabinet. So the first thing we've got to do is snip into that wire. Big step, this one, but we're just going to go immediately and cut the wire just as it goes into the chassis, and then we can remove the chassis from the speaker cabinet and have a look at how we're going to put this jack socket in. You'll see that that red and white wire are attached to a couple of red wires and a black wire, and they're all tie wrapped together, so we'll have to snip that tie wrap in order to get out the red and white wires that we want to get to. You'll also see that there's a cable glands that's rather stopping us from getting at the wires at the moment, so we'll have to snip that off as well. Easier said than done. We need to strip the end of these wires so that we can solder them onto our nice new jack socket. There we go. I'm just twisting around the individual bare wires so that they sit nicely together. I'm going to do the same thing to the white wire. Kaboom. Make sure you don't get anything inside the chassis. What I'm going to do is take some of my solder. I use Jura tool solder, and I'm going to do something called tinning the ends of the wires. That means I'm going to add solder to the ends of the wires so that they'll make a better connection with the jack socket. If you don't tin your wires, it's likely that they won't even connect to the jack socket. And then I'm going to take my jack socket and I'm going to add solder to the ends of these on the terminals, so then the whole thing will melt together perfectly. So before I actually screw the jack into the chassis, I'm going to solder my wires on, because they're a little bit short. But that's nothing to worry about, it's just going to be a snug fit. I'm going to solder the red wire to the top terminal and the white wire to the bottom terminal. Just going to make sure that the solder melts on the wire and the terminal, and then watch them melt into each other and let it cool down while I'm holding it steady. It really is as simple as that. Just going to repeat the process for the white wire, making sure all the solder is melting into each other. There we go. Well, now I can take my jack socket and stick it through the hole, and then all I've got to do is tighten my nuts up. Just finger tight. Doesn't have to be ridiculous. Make sure nothing's touching where it shouldn't be touching. Make sure everything's nice and secure. Job's a good one from that side. Let's concentrate on the speaker jack now. I'm just going to repeat the process on the wires for the speaker jack. I'm going to strip the ends of the wire. Sturdy stuff. I'm twisting round the individual fibres of the wire, so that when I solder on the jack, everything solders on nicely. Just resting my soldering iron against the wire so that the wire heats up. I'm just going to coat it with solder as best I can so that everything's coated. Where's my jack gone? It's around here somewhere. There it is. I need to add solder to the signal tip and to the grounding sleeve there. And then what I'm going to do is solder the red lead to the signal tip and the white lead to the ground sleeve. Job's a good one. Make sure you stick this bit on the wires before you start soldering anything. I'm going to do that now so I don't forget. The amount of times that I forgot to do that, and you have to take everything to bits again and redo everything. And it's rather annoying. If you do happen to get the wires the wrong way around, because we're not grounding to the chassis, it doesn't really matter. All you do is change the phase of the speaker, which, unless you're linking hundreds of these together, doesn't really matter. It just means that when the wave comes out of the speaker, it either starts with an outwards puff of air or an inwards puff of air. So we don't really care. This bit is fiddly. Certainly fiddly to show on the camera, so my hands are probably in the way of everything that's going on. But that's just the way things go. I don't have hundreds of Yamaha practice amplifiers to shoot this from all different angles. I pull that up and over. Shaboom. Just got to put the chassis back in now. So everything's all installed. If I want to use it as a practice amp, just plug the jack into the jack socket. But if I want to use it with my big 4x12, I unplug that and I plug that into that jack socket now. But what does that sound like? Let's give it a go. Well, should you sell all your Dumble amplifiers and your Fender Twin? Probably not. But does it sound any good? Surprisingly so. It actually reacts quite a lot like a valve amp. The more you turn up the volume and the EQs, the more overdrive you get. On the subject of overdrive, don't bother with the drive channel. That sounds a bit nasty. But the clean channel, overdriven, it's pretty good. So what's the moral of this story? Well, transistor amps don't really get a fair crack of the whip, do they? They come with little weedy speakers, so they sound little and weedy. If you put them through a big speaker, they sound like a big boy amplifier. A valve amp, I always like to think, is 100%. But this gets you at least to 95%. If you run your own studio and you're looking for something that sounds a bit Fenderish, a little bit tweedy rather than weedy, do this modification, plug it into an amplifier cabinet. It's an interesting sound. If you do regular gigs and you take out a big valve amplifier, well, it wouldn't hurt to put this in the boot, would it? Just in case something goes wrong. And you're going to get something fairly good out of it. And at the end of the day, they cost about 20 quid, so who loses out? Let's stop these going in the landfills. I'm not selling any kits that are to do with this. It's just a different type of video that I thought I'd try out. But if you have enjoyed the video, feel free to subscribe, and you can like the channel, and feel free to share it, especially with Yamaha, because I think they need to know about this. Until next time, happy modding. I'm going to play some loud guitar now and serenade my neighbours.